Queen Seraphina stood at the edge of her burning ship, holding her 2 daughters one last time. The war was coming. The enemy knew about the heirs. If they stayed with her, they would die. She had one choice: hide them somewhere no enemy would ever look. Somewhere small, forgotten, and completely off the galactic map. She looked down at her star charts. There was a tiny blue planet, third from a yellow sun, full of short-lived creatures called humans. No powers, no weapons, no importance. Perfect. She wrapped her daughters in a sleeping pod, programmed it to land quietly, and typed in one last command: wake them in 5 years, when the war's over. Then she kissed their foreheads, whispered, "I will come back for you, my queens," and let them go. Marcus Webb was 32 years old, worked at a small auto repair shop, ate cereal for dinner most nights, and had absolutely no plans to become a father. That changed on a Tuesday. He was walking his dog near the woods behind his house when he saw a soft blue light fall silently from the sky. He found the pod. He found 2 little girls inside, maybe 4 and 5 years old, with silver hair and purple eyes,
"We are ready for
holding
school,
each other
Daddy."
tightly. They looked up at him. The older one said one word in perfect quiet English: safe. Marcus looked around at the dark, empty woods, then back at 2 small, scared faces. He picked them up both. "Yeah," he said, "safe." Nobody came for them. 1 week passed, then 1 month, then 1 year. Marcus reported nothing to the government. He had seen enough movies to know how that ended. Instead, he did the only thing he knew how to do. He figured it out. He learned that Lyra, the older one, could not sleep without a nightlight. He learned that Zara, the younger one, cried every time it rained for a reason she could not explain. He learned that both of them healed faster than any human child, that their eyes glowed faintly when they were frightened, and that they could understand any language after hearing it only twice. He bought them backpacks. He enrolled them in school under fake names. He told the neighbors they were his brother's kids. He made pancakes every Sunday. He had no idea what he was doing. He did it anyway. 5 years passed. Lyra was now 10 and Zara 9. They were top of their classes, kind to everyone, strange in ways only Marcus noticed. Zara once stopped a falling bookshelf with her hand without touching it, then looked at Marcus with wide eyes. He just said, "Don't do that at school." Lyra sometimes finished Marcus's sentences before he started them. He just said, "Stop reading my mind at breakfast." They laughed. It was a normal laugh, a completely human laugh. One evening, Zara climbed onto the couch next to Marcus while he was watching TV and put her head on his shoulder and said, "Baba, do you think our real parents are looking for us?" Marcus was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "I don't know, but I'm right here." Zara nodded and closed her eyes. Neither of them said anything else. The TV played quietly in the background. Outside, very far away, beyond the stars, a war was finally ending. The ship entered Earth's atmosphere at 4 a.m. It was enormous, 3 times the size of an aircraft carrier, completely silent, with lights that moved like liquid silver across its surface. Every satellite on Earth picked it up. Every government panicked. Every news channel went live. The ship landed in the open field 2 miles from Marcus's house, flattening trees and leaving a perfect circle in the ground. And from it walked one woman, tall, silver-haired, purple-eyed, dressed like someone who had never once been told what to do. She walked toward the nearest road, stopped the first car she saw, looked at the terrified driver, and said calmly, "Marcus Webb." Where? The driver gave her the address immediately. Marcus was making coffee when someone knocked on his door. He opened it. He had never seen this woman before, but something in his stomach dropped the moment he looked at her eyes. Purple, exactly like Lyra's, exactly like Zara's. The woman looked at him for one long moment, then looked past him into the house. Lyra and Zara were standing in the hallway in their pajamas, school bags half-packed, cereal going cold on the table. The woman's face changed completely. Every bit of the cold queen disappeared. Her voice broke slightly when she spoke. "My daughters," she said. It was not a question. Marcus did not move from the doorway. He said nothing. Behind him, he heard Zara whisper one word, very quietly, to Lyra: "Baba." Seraphina explained everything. The war. the danger, the decision she made to save them. She had come back the moment it was safe. Not one day late, she said, looking at Marcus as if daring him to argue. She had spent 5 years fighting, winning, and coming back for her daughters. She was their mother. She was their queen. She was here now. She looked at Marcus and said, with complete seriousness, "You have my gratitude, human. You kept them alive. I will reward you generously." Marcus looked at her for a long moment. Then he said, "They don't want to go." Serafina blinked. "Excuse me?" Marcus said, "Ask them." Serafina turned to her daughters. This was the moment she had imagined for 5 years. The reunion, the embrace, going home. Lyra and Zara looked at their mother. They did not run to her. They stood very still. Zara reached out and took Marcus's hand. Lyra said quietly, "We don't remember you." Serafina went completely still. Lyra continued, not cruelly but honestly, the way children tell the truth. "He was there when I had nightmares. He was there when I broke my arm. He came every school play and he sat in a tiny plastic chair and he was too big for it. And he came anyway. He taught me how to ride a bike and how to apologize and how to make chai." She paused. "We love you. You are our mother, but he is our dad, and we don't know how to leave him." Serafina looked at Marcus. Marcus looked at the floor. The kitchen smelled like coffee and burnt toast. A completely ordinary morning. She had not been prepared for this. The Empire sent General Kale 3 days later. Serafina had asked for time. The Empire did not do time. General Kale arrived with 6 warships and a simple message. The heirs return the throne, or Earth becomes an example. He met Marcus in the open field where Serafina's ship had landed. Kale was 8 feet tall, covered in ceremonial armor, with a voice like grinding metal. He looked at Marcus the way someone looks at an insect on the sidewalk. "Step aside, human," he said. "This is not your war. These are not your daughters. You are nothing in this story." Marcus stood very still. He was wearing jeans and an old jacket. He had a coffee thermos in his hand. He said, "You flew 6 warships across the galaxy to scare one guy with a coffee thermos." Kale stared at him. Marcus continued, "I'm not stepping aside. You want to talk? We talk. You want to threaten? Go ahead. But those girls are in that house doing homework, and nobody is walking in there and taking them anywhere." What happened next was not a fight. It was something stranger. Lyra and Zara walked out of the house and stood next to Marcus. And then their powers they had barely used, powers they had hidden for years, came out fully for the first time. Lyra's eyes went completely white, and every piece of metal on Kale's armor locked in place. Zara raised one hand, and all 6 warships above them tilted sideways and froze midair. The entire field went silent. Kale could not move. His soldiers could not move. Serafina, standing to the side, stared at her daughters with an expression nobody had ever seen on a queen's face before. Pure shock. These were not the scared 4-year-olds she had put in a pod. These were something else entirely. Kale managed to say, through locked armor, "What are they?" Serafina said quietly, almost to herself, "They are mine." Then after a pause she added something she had not planned to say, and apparently also his. The Empire negotiated. It took 2 weeks, 3 translators, and one very uncomfortable meeting where Marcus sat across a table from 7 alien diplomats and ate a sandwich because he had skipped lunch. The final agreement was simple. Lyra and Zara would be recognized as heirs to the throne. They would train with the Empire. They would one day return to Led. But for now they were children, and children needed to grow up somewhere. The Empire signed the document. Marcus signed it too, in pen on paper, because he did not own a single piece of technology the Empire's lawyers had tried to hand him. The lead diplomat looked at the paper's signature for a long moment and said nothing. Serafina came to say goodbye on a Sunday morning. Marcus made tea. She sat in a small kitchen and looked around at everything, the drawings on the fridge, the chipped mugs, the stack of school books on the counter, and said, "I do not understand how this place feels the way it does." Marcus said, "What way?" She said, "Safe." He nodded and handed her the tea. They sat quietly for a while. Before she left, she stood at the door and said, "I will visit." Marcus said, "The girls are like that." She nodded. Then she said very carefully, like someone learning a new word, "Thank you for being there." She paused. Marcus said, "Dad." She said, "Yes, that." She left. Marcus went back inside. Lyra and Zara were at the table, cereal getting cold, arguing about something completely ordinary. He sat down between them. Outside, the sky was blue and completely normal. 2 Galaxy Heirs had homework due on Monday. Their dad was going to help them with it. Everything, against all odds, was fine. Zara was 11 years old, and she had one wish. Not a throne, not a galaxy, not powers that could freeze warships in the sky. She wanted to go to a sleepover at her friend Maya's house and not accidentally move anything with her mind. That was it. That was the whole wish. Marcus said yes before she finished asking. He drove her there himself, reminded her 3 times to keep her eyes normal color, and sat in the car outside for 20 minutes before driving home because he was that kind of dad. Everything was fine for exactly 4 hours. Then Maya's older brother started showing off with firecrackers in the backyard, and one went wrong and flew straight toward Maya's face, and Zara's hand moved without her permission, and the firecracker stopped in midair in front of everyone. 6 kids stared at it. Then they stared at Zara. Zara looked at Marcus's contact in her phone. She typed one message. "Come get me." He was there in 8 minutes. He did not say anything on the drive home. Zara sat in the passenger seat, looking at her hands. Finally, she said everyone saw. Marcus said, "I know." She said, "Maya's going to tell people." Marcus said, "Probably." Zara said, "I just want to be normal for one night." Marcus stopped at a red light. He looked at her. He said, "Zara, you stopped a firecracker from hitting your friend's face. That is not a problem. That is who you are." Zara said, "But now everyone knows I'm different." Marcus said, "Everyone already knew you were different. You're the kid who got 100% on every math test since 2nd grade." Zara almost smiled. Almost. The light turned green. Marcus said, "Also, Maya texted me while I was driving over." Zara looked up. He said, "She said," and I quote, "Zara is the coolest person I've ever met. Can she come back tomorrow?" Zara was quiet for 1 second. Then she laughed. It was a completely human laugh. Marcus kept driving. Serafina visited 4 times a year. That was the agreement. But this visit was different because her ship had a technical problem, a very convenient technical problem that her chief engineer could not explain, and that Lyra, who had been secretly learning engineering from YouTube, absolutely had nothing to do with. The repair would take 3 days. Serafina would have to stay in Marcus's house, in the guest room that currently had a broken lamp, a stack of board games from 2019, and one very old treadmill nobody had used since Marcus bought it. She stood in the doorway of the guest room and looked at the treadmill for a long time. Marcus said, "I can move it." She said, "Do not touch anything. This room is—" She paused, looking for the word. "Interesting." She meant terrible. Marcus knew she meant terrible. He moved the treadmill anyway. 3 days turned into something nobody planned. Serafina sat at the dinner table every night. Marcus cooked. Badly the first night, less badly the second, almost well the third. Lyra taught her mother how to play a card game. Serafina won every round because she could calculate probability in her head and felt no shame about this. Zara made her watch a movie, and Serafina sat through the entire thing completely straight-backed and serious, and at the end said the plot had 14 logical errors, and Zara said, "It's a cartoon, Mom," and the word Mom just came out naturally without planning, and the table went quiet for 1 moment. Serafina looked at her plate. Something moved across her face very quickly. She said, "Yes, I am aware it's a cartoon." Nobody said anything about the word. But before she left on the 4th morning, she stood at the door and looked at Marcus and said, "Your cooking is improving." Marcus said, "High praise." She said, "Do not push it." Then she left. The house felt slightly emptier for about an hour. Then Zara put on a cartoon, and everything was fine.